That was a hiccup. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suzanne M., and I'm an adult librarian here at the Los Angeles Public Library's Business and Economics Department. We're glad to have you join us for today's program, Protect Yourself from Crypto Scams. Cryptocurrency has been in the news a lot lately, and we wanted to ensure that community members have the necessary tools and knowledge to make informed decisions about crypto. We have some great presenters from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, or DFPI, here with us today. Before we start the presentations, I want everyone to be aware that this program will be recorded and will be made available after the live stream is over. So if you miss any portion of the program, you can always come back and view it with the LA Public Library's YouTube channel. Also, the presenters and I very much welcome your engagement and encourage you to log into your YouTube account and type your questions into the chat box to the right of this video. I will take note of the questions and pull each one up at the end of the presentation during the Q&A session with the speakers. Now, I am pleased to introduce our presenters from the DFPI. We have Ku Lee, who is the Director of Targeted Outreach, and his presentation will be followed by Trevor Carroll, who is the Senior Counsel at the Enforcement Division. So Ku, go ahead and take it away. I will add your presentation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. It's a beautiful afternoon, and let's go ahead and get started. So again, today's topic is protecting yourself from crypto scams. My name is Ku Lee. I'm from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as DFPI. Next slide, please. So just a quick disclaimer that I always share. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenters. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the department, the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not financial advice and does not replace any independent or professional judgment. We're a huge advocate of you doing your own research, and by being here, that's what you're doing. So thank you so much. Any products, services, or brands that might be mentioned in this presentation is not an endorsement, and the DFPI does not assume responsibility for the completeness of the information presented in this presentation. Basically, as you know, with any kind of technology, things change all the time. The information we present right now is the most up-to-date, and things may change from going forward. So we hope you understand that. For more information, you could always visit our website, dfpi.ca.gov. I also have a email address which all of my staff members maintain and we respond to. That email address is outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. You're welcome to send us any kind of questions, comments. If you want to copy these slides, please feel free to email us. Next slide, please. So quickly, I just want to talk about the DFPI, right? Who are we? What is our role? Well, the DFPI is California's financial regulator. Our purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. The departments, we do this through regulating and enforcing a variety of financial laws on financial services, products, and professionals in the state of California. We also provide free presentations, workshops, and seminars throughout California to help protect, to help inform consumers, and to help prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. For more information, we have a dedicated webpage where consumers could go and get news, alerts, consumer alerts. They can subscribe to our newsletter. It is dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Next slide, please. So I do want to plug some free financial education. It is an online platform. You just go there. There's a lot of different modules. You'll need to register with an email address. But by registering with an email address, it actually saves your place when you're taking a module. So if you need to close out or log out and go do something, you could do that. When you log back in, it saves your place in the course. So there's tons of great financial courses if you want to learn more about topics such as budgeting, investing, retirement planning, paying for college, managing debt, building credits, buying a house. It's a fantastic platform, free to anyone to use. All you need is just an email address to register. You could get started at dfpi.ca.gov/learn. Okay, next slide. So let's kind of jump right into it. But I do want to help everyone understand a little more about investing. Just some quick disclaimers here. By no means are we making any kind of recommendation on what you should be investing in. So whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks and bonds, CDs, or even crypto, the state of California, we do not, and especially the DFPI, we do not make any recommendations on what you can or should and should not invest in. In fact, we encourage you to do the research yourself and find the best investment that works for you and your lifestyle and your risk tolerance. These tips that I'm going to go through in the next couple of slides do not guarantee any kind of investing safety. So, of course, we, again, highly recommend you do your research. But these are kind of the good general practices to start, especially when you are getting into investing. If you're doing investing already, it's great questions to ask yourself. So the very first one you should always ask is, hey, should I be investing now? And I get this question a lot when I do my workshops, whether it's in budgeting or retirement planning. You should always prioritize, housing and living expenses first, right? Don't take your mortgage, don't take your rent and try to invest it. Even if it sounds like it's a great investment, you really need to prioritize your housing, living expenses, food, electricity, utilities, that kind of thing first. Also, if you have any kind of high interest debt, right? Maybe a student loan, maybe some credit cards, you should prioritize paying that off before you start investing first. Very oftentimes, those high interest debts, like a credit card that might have 25% interest, you're losing money if you don't pay that off. And if you take money that you should be paying your credit card off and instead use it to try to invest, your investment is going to likely have a lower return than that interest rate on your debt. So again, review all those. And by the way, that leads us into, the number 2 question you should always ask is, how much can I afford to risk or lose? And you really get the answer to this question if you budget. The budget is kind of where it starts everywhere. So you're going to log, how much money you bring in and how much expenses you have, right? So rent, mortgage, you got credit card, you got other debt obligations, expenses. You need to figure all that out before you just start taking money and investing it. Because again, those are obligations of things that you need to do. And of course, this is going to help you determine kind of your risk tolerance, right? Because you're going to recognize that I only have a certain amount of money after I pay all of my living expenses. I'll have a certain amount of money that I can spend, right? And the third question is, hey, what are my long-term, and I emphasize long-term investment goals? I know many people are investing because they're trying to build wealth of some sort. And so that's kind of a goal, but you could also have other kind of goals, right? Am I saving? Am I investing for retirement? Am I investing to pull that money out later, right? That kind of thing. Figure out those goals, and that's going to help you figure out what investments are best for you. And then, of course, there's things like what are my investment priorities? And investment priorities could be things like I need something that I can liquidate fast, right? An investment that I can quickly cash out, or I have some long-term goals I want to achieve, and that's a big priority. Or maybe you want to invest in a cause, right? There's a company that you want to support, or there's a cause that they do, and you want to invest in that. So those are your investing priorities. Next, please. Of course, always important. Do your own research. You're going to hear that a lot here because we believe it's incredibly important. There's two different quotes I want to share from Warren Buffett, the legendary investor himself. Never invest in a business you cannot understand. Really good advice. And risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So just want to share those two from someone who's a very experienced, very successful investor. I'm not going to read through this entire list of things to research about your investments, right? But I think these are great things that you should consider when you're looking into an investment, right? So things like, is this investment product licensed, registered, regulated by any kind of organization, right? What are the different risk and returns? And then, when can you withdraw from those investments, right? Some investments lock you in for a certain amount of time, right? Think certificate deposits, also known as CDs. So you got to understand those terms and conditions. What are the tax implications, right? So that's kind of if you're putting money in an IRA or Roth IRA, there's different tax implications there. And something that many investors, especially young investors or investors that are kind of starting their journey, they don't understand the fees associated with investing, right? So fees like managing your accounts or using or putting trades, right? Placing trades, buying stocks, that kind of thing. You want to be, again, I recommend that you should do all the research you can to learn about all of these type of things before you start investing, because you want to be, again, a smart, informed investor making smart, informed decisions. Next slide, please. So continue on researching a couple of different tools for you, places where you could go to get more information. The DFPI actually has a PDF checklist. We call it Check Before You Invest, and you could download it. I'm going to share the PDF. You could click on this link once we get the PDF shared to you. Again, it's just a checklist of things that you should consider, right? Where is this investment? Who is it? A licensed broker and all that kind of information. The SEC, also known as the Security and Exchange Commission, has a database where you can review investments. You could also review brokers and investment advisors. You could always check it out there. It's a great resource. Three other different resources I do want to share. So the SEC has investor.gov. Fantastic resource. It's a very dense website with a lot of financial education and information, some tools, right? Some like calculators there as well. The FDIC has a program called Money Smart. It's more than just investing. It's got a lot of information on things like budgeting, if you need help with that. Things like building credits, buying a house. It's a great program. Look into it if you want to get a little more financially literate while you're starting to invest or while you are investing. And of course, the DFPI, we have a dedicated section on our website. We call it our Investor Center. Very similar to the SEC's investor.gov, but we kind of cook a lot of things down, right? We make it very user-friendly and simple for you to use. It's also a great location for nonprofits, partners to go and get information, presentations that you could share with your community. That said, please next slide. I do want to talk more about the Investor Center. And the Investor Center, it was actually funded by a grant from the Investor Protection Trust. Sorry. The link to it is dfpi.ca.gov/investors. Again, there you could find free investing information, education, resources. We also have a calculator. We're actually borrowing from the SEC. There's some links to upcoming financial education webinars and other events. We also publish articles, news. There's a link there where you can submit a complaint or report a scam. And you can always go there. Again, links to verify and review licensed broker-dealer investment advisors. So please check out the Investment Center if you want more information, you want to learn more. Next slide, please. With that, I do want to hand it off to my colleague, Trevor Carroll. He is, again, the DFPI's Senior Enforcement Counsel. Trevor, please take it away.
Thanks, Ku. So hello, everyone. I'm Trevor Carroll, again, the Senior Enforcement Counsel here at DFPI. And we're going to talk a little bit about crypto assets. So first of all, what do we mean when we talk about crypto assets? Well, it refers to a digital asset which may be a medium of exchange for which generation or ownership records are supported through blockchain technology. So examples of these are digital currencies, NFTs or non-fungible tokens, asset-backed tokens, tokenized real estate. And you've probably heard a lot about crypto in the news, especially recently or in the past. And there's always the possibility of scams when it comes to crypto. And we'll talk a little bit about those later on. Next slide. So be careful with crypto. Even if you're not dealing with a crypto scam, it's important to be careful with crypto. Crypto does not have the same level of regulation as traditional financial services. So, unlike a traditional bank account, which is FDIC insured, there is no government insurance if your crypto disappears. Investing in or purchasing crypto assets does not guarantee that you'll make money. And this is important because when I mentioned that crypto has been in the news, a lot of stories about crypto have talked about how people have essentially gotten rich by buying crypto or investing in crypto. Um, so, uh, so it's always important to be careful when it comes to crypto investments or purchasing crypto because you can lose. Investors and people who purchase crypto can lose money when they buy crypto or invest in crypto. So if you see someone making a promise that if you invest in crypto, if you purchase a certain crypto asset, and that crypto will continue to go up and go up and go up, and investors will make more and more and more money forever, that's always a red flag. Next slide. So no legitimate companies will force you to pay in cryptocurrencies or other crypto assets. That's a red flag to look out for. Scammers may use names for their tokens that are very similar to popular cryptocurrencies. So scammers will essentially create new cryptocurrencies, and these are just complete scams. But they mask these scams by using names that are similar to other popular cryptocurrencies to essentially trick investors into purchasing their scam tokens. So you do want to look at crypto asset names very carefully and do your research. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some common crypto asset scams. So there's a type of scam where you may be encouraged to deposit funds, specifically crypto, into an investment project. So scammers will direct you to purchase crypto at a legitimate cryptocurrency exchange and then send that crypto to the scammers. And scammers will uh, often provide a fake website where you can monitor your crypto asset investments, and the fake website will show that your funds are going up. And you will be prompted to deposit more and more crypto into the scheme until eventually you want to withdraw those funds. And when you do, the scammers do everything they can to prevent you from withdrawing those funds. So when you request a withdrawal, they will say that you have to pay taxes before you can withdraw. So they will request more money. Or they say that there are fees and you have to pay more money in order to get your money back. And they will keep asking for more and more and more and will never give you your funds back. They will never process those withdrawals because, again, these are scams. So with this particular type of scam, you throw money into it, you invest crypto into it, but you don't get anything out. Next slide. Then there are mining scams. Scammers often lure consumers to invest upfront money into their crypto mining operations, and they promise returns. So, crypto mining is a way of generating certain crypto assets. Bitcoin is an example. So scammers will say that they have mining equipment. They have hardware that can mine Bitcoin, that can create Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, and they will direct investors to send them funds to invest in that mining operation. But again, there are a lot of scams, and so the scammers often don't have the actual mining equipment that they say they do, or their mining equipment and their setups are too small to actually provide the promised returns. Next slide. There are phishing scams. Scammers contact you with emails, bogus websites, messages, social media to trick you into providing private keys, passwords, and sensitive information. So scammers try to trick you into giving you uh, access to, or giving them access to your crypto, particularly through private keys and passwords, or they try to trick you into sending crypto to them, thinking that you are sending crypto to something legitimate, or to a government agency, or a tech support agency, something like that. Next slide. And then there are Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes, and these are especially dangerous because typically with pyramid schemes, investors are approached by either family members or friends, or even seen influencers on social media, and they are prompted to deposit funds into an investment opportunity, and they are also incentivized to recruit new investors. So the scheme promises to pay investors to recruit additional investors. And when you see that sort of setup, some sort of multi-level marketing platform that's combined with a crypto investment opportunity, stay away, because those are often scams. Because you will be, again, incentivized to recruit additional investors, and those people will deposit funds, and all the investors deposit funds into the scheme until one day the scheme collapses, and it disappears, and it runs off with investor funds. Next slide, please. Fake ICOs. So these are initial coin offerings. This is when an individual or a company comes out with a new cryptocurrency. They create a new crypto asset, and these are bogus crypto assets. And the goal is to encourage investors to buy that new cryptocurrency. They tantalize victims with the promise of new tech or great returns, but they eventually run off with investor funds because these are scams. Next slide. Rug pulls. This is when scammers hype up a crypto asset to rapidly increase its value. Now, these scammers often buy up that crypto asset. They go out, they promote it, they hype up the value of it to encourage new investors to come in and purchase those crypto assets. And then once the value gets high enough, those scammers pull the rug. So they sell off all of their tokens, leaving the new investors to suffer the losses. People that purchased the crypto at the top of its value, those are the ones that lose their funds. So scammers eventually disappear with the funds they've raised, and it turns out to be nothing more than a smokescreen for a cash grab. Next slide, please. Romance scams. This is a huge area of crypto asset scams. So you may have heard about romance scams in the news. This also falls into the category of pig butchering, and it's where scammers use social engineering to build the illusion of a trusting relationship. So often scammers reach out to individuals through social media or dating websites, and they strike up a conversation. You may have gotten this in the form of a wrong number text, where someone sends you a text and claims that it was a wrong number, but then they still want to have a conversation, and they still want to try to develop some sort of relationship. It could be a friendship, it could be romantic, it could be a business relationship. The point is that the scammers are gaining your trust. And eventually, after a while, maybe weeks or months down the road, the scammer will then ask for crypto. They will ask you to send them crypto, either for investment purposes or because the scammer needs money for a medical procedure or something like that. But again, these are all tricks to try to fool people into sending scammers their crypto assets. So always approach these situations with caution. If you receive a text from someone that you're not familiar with, or if you receive a social media message or post from someone that you don't know, approach that situation with caution because they may be trying to scam you. Next slide. Then there are fake exchanges and fake wallets. So a common tactic for scammers is to mimic legitimate platforms to try to fool people into sending crypto to the scammer. So they might take a legitimate crypto exchange, for example, and change one letter in the web address. They might change an S to a 5, or they might change an O to a zero, something like that. And so an investor may, or a person may think that they are dealing with a legitimate website when really it's a trick set up by a scammer to mimic a real website. Next slide. So here's some tips to protect yourself. First, do your research. Learn more about what you're investing in. Gather information from more than one resource. Never share your personal or account information with someone who calls or emails you unsolicited. And don't rush into anything. Scammers prey on the fear of missing out, known as FOMO. They will try to make you believe that all of your friends are making money through a particular cryptocurrency, or smart investors out there or making money through a particular cryptocurrency investment opportunity. You can check with a government agency, specifically government agency websites for scam information. I know Ku will talk about this later, but the DFPI does have a scam tracker where we track crypto asset scams. You can check with the SEC, as Ku mentioned, or some other government agencies. If you're ever prompted or directed to invest in a particular crypto investment opportunity, first thing, just go out and Google it. You might find some hits. There may be lawsuits about it. There may be government agencies that have already taken action against that particular crypto asset investment opportunity. So there's often information on the internet. It may help to talk to friends or family as well, especially in those cases where you've struck up a friendship or a romantic relationship with someone. It's good to get some outside perspectives from people that know you. So always do your research whenever it comes to cryptocurrency, whenever it comes to crypto asset investments. Next slide. Here are some additional resources to help you out. We mentioned the crypto scam tracker, the SEC's website, the commodities and futures trading commission's crypto asset webpage. And then there's the FTC and their crypto consumer advice webpage. So there's lots of different government agencies that have looked into crypto assets and can offer you some advice. Next slide. And here's the DFPI's crypto scam tracker. So our crypto scam tracker, in partnership with the California DOJ, has shut down more than 26 different crypto scam websites and uncovered $4.6 million in consumer losses. And additionally, we've identified 7 new scam types based on more than 2,668 complaints submitted by consumers in California and from across the U.S. Last year. So the DFPI is constantly monitoring for crypto scams, and if you ever come across something that you suspect may be a scam, or maybe you just have some questions about it, it's good to alert the DFPI to that particular crypto opportunity, because it may be a scam. And for the DFPI, it helps put it on our radar if consumers come to us and tell us about these potential crypto scams that are out there. Because if we don't know about them, we cannot alert consumers to those scams. So if you come across something, if you see something, let us know. That way we can look into it. We may investigate, and we may determine that it's a scam and take action against it before consumers get hurt. Next slide. And some of the red flags going into crypto asset investments, if there's any promises of high rates of return and no risk, stay away from those, because scammers often promise that this is a safe investment and that you're going to make a lot of money, that there's no risk, that you're going to make high rates of return, high yield. Stay away from those types of investments. There's also claims of consistent returns over many years. That's another red flag. If they've always produced high returns for investors, that's typically not the way investing works. There's the pressure to act immediately. Scammers often try to dissuade investors from doing research, because they know that if someone does some research, it may turn up some information that points to that being a scam. So they want you to act right away. There's also the insistence on silence or secrecy. Scammers know that when people talk to their friends or family, those friends or family might step in with an objective view and may offer some advice to the person and say, hey, this is a scam. You should stay away from this. So scammers will usually want you to only communicate with the scammer. There's the lack of contact information or transparency. So if we come across with crypto scams, you might come across something that is a scam, and it may not have any sort of contact information. It may not be a real company. They may not have a real headquarters. They may not have real executives. Or they may offer very little transparency about how they actually generate the returns that they say they're generating. There could be errors or inconsistencies in documents, claims of exemptions, a history of problems, a negative reputation or testimonials. So there may be other investors who have been tricked by the same crypto asset scam. And that information may be available on the internet. That's why we always encourage investors to do their research. Requests for more money. If you're prompted by the scammers to send more and more and more money without ever getting your money in return, that's a red flag. And if the investment lacks paperwork, if you're not given proper paperwork, that could be a red flag as well. Next slide. And you can get help. So consider using a licensed investment broker or advisor. You can search the DFPI's enforcement records. All of our enforcement actions are available to the public through our website. So if we've taken an enforcement action against a crypto scam, it'll be on our website. So there's plenty of resources for you as an investor or just as a consumer or an individual to take advantage of. Next slide. And I will go ahead and turn it back over to Ku to talk about how you can protect yourself from fraud and scams.
Thank you, Trevor. A lot of really fantastic and great information on crypto assets and the different crypto scams out there. So let's talk a little bit about how to protect yourself from frauds and scams. This is more general information, but I think it greatly applies to not just investing, but also anytime someone tries to contact you with opportunities such. So next slide, please. So talking about how you can protect yourself, I like to think of it in different layers, right? Using all these different layers is going to create some certain levels of protection. It's also going to create certain levels of awareness. So the first thing that I like to say is don't respond to scammers. Just like Trevor mentioned, sometimes you might get a text message saying, "Hey, when are you coming to dinner?" or "When are you coming home?" Right? And we call those the wrong number text messages. And again, they're trying to get their foot in the door. Sometimes you might get a phone call from someone maybe trying to offer you a great investing opportunity. So the first thing we always say is, hey, don't respond to scammers, right? They're trying to contact you through telephone, through text messages, emails. The best thing to do if you get some wrong number, some phone number that's calling you and you don't recognize it, just let it go to voicemail. That way you're not caught up in this conversation with a scammer or maybe a scam call center. And more importantly, if you let it go to voicemail, it is more likely that they will ignore your number in the future because they know that you don't answer the phone. Of course, if you pick up, or even sometimes when you hang up on a call you don't recognize, it tells the scammer, who's, by the way, most times just dialing random numbers, it tells them that there's someone on the other side. And so they may not get you with this scam, but they might call you again with a different scam. They may hand off your phone number to their scam network, and they're going to try to contact you and get you with a different type of scam. Next slide, please. Of course, here it is again. Do your research. So important. Trevor highlighted some of the red flags for investing. Again, he talked about verifying information. So important to do your research. Take the time to do so. You want to check credentials. You always want to go directly to the official source, right? Always check the website links above. Make sure it's legitimate. Make sure the company or investment exchange or websites are all legitimate. Look at the contact information. Give them a call. Very, very often, legitimate organizations have a legitimate phone number which you can call. You can actually talk to someone. There's documentation. There are, legitimate organizations and products and services are very oftentimes licensed as well. So you can always check those credentials. Next slide, please. Take your time. So again, just like Trevor was saying, very often scammers are trying to get you to rush. They're trying to get you into that tunnel vision, right? They create that sense of urgency. So if someone is threatening you or giving you a limited time offer of some sort, you want to ignore those because you want to take your time when you're making an important financial decision, especially like investing. Again, the scammers are trying to get you in that tunnel vision so you don't see the red flags, so you ignore it. When you're rushing into something, many times you make those irrational decisions. You don't see all the different issues that you would normally have seen. One great advice that someone gave me a long time ago, and I follow it very closely, is don't make any big financial decisions for at least 24 hours. If someone calls you and says, you got to take advantage of this investment today, wait 24 hours, take your time, think about it, talk to other people to get their advice. Next slide, please. So this is a great one here. Don't share your information or limit what you share, especially on like social media, websites, forums, different communities, emails. If you share emails with your friends, right? Don't put personal information in there, because one of the stories I share is that there was two brothers who actually came to a resource fair. They shared their story with me. They're very close, and in fact, they share personal and financial information through their emails. Well, one of the brothers got his email hacked, and now his brother's financial information was all out there and available to the hacker. So again, be very careful with the emails that your personal information, financial information you share in your emails. Again, you want to limit what you share on social media because scammers, fraudsters use social media for social engineering, right? They look at the things you're interested in. If they see that you're an investor, that you like to invest in crypto assets, they may want to contact you, and they want, because they see that's what you're doing, that's what we're promoting on social media. They might want to contact you with their crypto asset scheme. So be very careful about that. And finally, phone apps. I'm not going to read through this whole list, but phone apps, very often when you download a phone app to use, most people don't look at the terms and conditions. Sometimes those terms and conditions could say things like you're giving permission for the app to track you, to record your data, to access your contacts and information and store it on their database. And if you're not okay with that, especially if the company suffers a data breach and all your information is going to be out there, you want to make sure to decline the use of that phone app. Next slide, please. So important. Talk to someone you trust. I know I mentioned this before, but it's incredibly important. That's why I'm just reiterating it. Again, if you're being pushed to do something, if you're being rushed, if there's a sense of urgency, it's so important to just stop, take your time, and then talk to someone else, right? It could be your friends, family, older children, right? Any kind of financial advisor, professional, even a community leader, because that other person that you talk to is going to give you perspective, right? They're going to give you additional perspective. They might actually point out the different red flags that you didn't see. So important to talk to someone you trust. Next, please. And after that, you want to stay vigilant, right? It's important to do all these different things, right? Don't respond to scammers and doing your research, checking credentials, all that, but also always stay vigilant. So that's like checking your financial accounts, checking your credit reports regularly, making sure there's no irregular activity, right? Again, not going to read all these things, but important thing to do also, don't just close your internet browser. You want to make sure to log out of the website. The story I share here is there was a student who's on campus and she's accessing her Gmail so she could get some of her work done. At the end of her computer lab class, she just closed out and then walked away. The next student that sat down at her computer opened up the internet browser and her Gmail, her email account was right there. And so luckily this student was very honest and kind, and he actually just emailed herself, using her own email. She sent them one letting that previous student know, hey, I have access to your Gmail. Please make sure to log out next time you close out your window. So again, very important. You might be browsing somewhere, looking at your investments, crypto assets, and you just close your browser. Again, someone might just come into that terminal, open it up, and now they have access, right? So be very careful of that. Next slide, please. And of course, like Trevor was saying, you always want to report the incident. It's really difficult for us to not only help you, but also help protect the community, help protect Californians at large if we don't know what's happening. So you can report scams and fraud. It doesn't have to be investment scams and frauds. Could be other financial scams and frauds. First, I always recommend you start with your local police, and if you can, your district attorney, maybe your state assembly members, state senators, locally they may be dealing with something that's happening, right? So maybe a community center, senior center or something is being targeted, and your police report is going to help them with their investigation. But you could also submit your report to state authorities like us, the DFPI, also the DCA, which is the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Attorney General's Office, that's the AG. You could always submit your reports there. There's also federal authorities which you can submit your reports to. So that's like the FBI. They have their IC3.gov. It's the Internet Crimes Complaint Center. And the CFPB, SEC, FTC have all different places where you could submit your report of a scam or fraud. The FTC has a great website. The link to it is reportfraud.ftc.gov. You could submit all your information there. Next slide, please. Okay, so the DFPI is, again, reminder, we're here to protect you and your community. You can contact us if you've observed or have been a victim of a scam, financial fraud, or abusive business practice. If you've observed any kind of elder financial abuse, we work very closely with APS, Adult Protective Services, and we want to help protect our older adults, seniors, retirees. If you want to report a violation of California financial laws, you could always submit a complaint to us. And if you have questions about a financial product, professional company, one of our licensees, you could always call us at our number, 866-275-2677. You could also submit a complaint to us on our website. The link there is dfpi.ca.gov/submit-a-complaint. Okay, next slide, please. With that, I do want to share a couple of really quick reminders before we hit the Q&A session. We have a couple of different webinars happening coming up next month. The first one is our Building Wealth Through Financial Literacy. We are going to be highlighting how financial literacy can help you, can help your family, can help anyone build wealth. And we're going to talk about, we're not going to go deep into the topics, but we're going to talk about some of the great important financial literacy topics that can help you go from financial insecurity to financial security to financial independence and financial freedom. So really, really important. I think it's going to be great. We're going to have a fantastic speaker on to talk about it, to share information. Of course, going to have a live Q&A session, so you can submit your questions and get those answered live. Also, next month, April, is Financial Literacy Month, and we are hosting our annual Financial Literacy Month resource webinar. That is on April 23rd at noon. You could register with that link. It's going to be a great webinar. We're going to talk about all the different, we're going to highlight a lot of different financial resources available to Californians. And we're also going to have a panel discussing, the psychology of saving money and spending money, with a fantastic panel of subject matter experts. Please join. It's going to be great. If you register, you're going to get a copy of the slides as well as a link to the recording. If you miss it, it's going to be fantastic. And then, of course, you could always check out our other events on our website, dfpi.ca.gov/events. We have a lot of different events, whether it's webinars, workshops, in-person events all across California. Check it out. Come visit us. Come talk to us. We want to meet you and share your story and see what kind of resources we can give you. Of course, some of you may have seen this webinar published in our newsletter. If you didn't, subscribe to our newsletter. It's dfpi.ca.gov/subscribe. It's a monthly email newsletter we send out. It's got a lot of great information, news, alerts, articles, and a list of different events that we're highlighting for the month. And of course, some of you are watching this on YouTube streaming. The DFPI also has our own YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CA-DFPI. Please subscribe to us. We publish all of our financial education webinars there, as well as many other financial education videos. With that, next slide, please. I think it's time for the Q&A, and I think Suzanne's going to come on and help moderate.
Yes, thank you both so much for that presentation. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience did too. For everyone who's watching, I encourage you to type in your question on the right-hand side of this video, and I will go ahead and one by one pull up each question for our presenters to address. So first, we have a question from Kyrax asking, given the riskiness of cryptocurrency, would you recommend investing in it?
I'll give my 2 cents, and then I think Trevor will probably have the better answer. I will say, as the state of California, we don't recommend, we don't make recommendations. I would say what I would recommend is you do the research and find out what investment works best for you, right? There's so many different types of investments out there. They have lots of pros and cons. I do agree cryptocurrency is very risky, very risky. And if you're okay with that kind of riskiness, again, I would advise you do as much research as you can. Yeah, again, DFPI, we don't make recommendations on any kind of investment products. We do highly recommend you do as much research as you can first, though.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't have anything to add. I think that's a great answer.
Our next question from a user named Analyze This asks, I've lost money in a cryptocurrency scam. Is there anything I can do to get that money back? Where can I go to help?
So I would recommend reporting that as soon as possible. So the quicker you report a cryptocurrency scam, the quicker the authorities can act. So there's really there's probably three agencies that you'd want to go to. Report it to the DFPI. You would want to report it to your local criminal agency, so local police department, and you can also report it on the FBI's website, ic3.gov. So those are three great places, but the quicker you act, the better.
Thank you for that, Trevor. Would you be able to share with us what the process might be like for recovering crypto losses after someone, say, reports it to IC3 or the crypto tracker?
Sure. So authorities will take the information that you provide to try to find out where the funds went. So when you report a cryptocurrency scam and you report the funds that you lost in a cryptocurrency scam, the more information that you can provide, the better. So you'll want to provide transaction information. The best thing that you can provide are transaction hashes. So that's a combination of, it's usually a combination of letters and numbers that represents each transaction. So it's a big long string of letters and numbers called a transaction hash. And you can also include information like the date that you sent funds, the amount of funds that you sent, and you can include that when you file a complaint. And the authorities will then use that information to trace where the funds went. And sometimes those funds go to places where authorities can seize the funds or freeze those funds or even recover the funds for you. But it all comes down to timing. So the longer you wait to report, the longer the scammers have to take those funds and make them disappear, essentially launder them or transfer them overseas or transfer them to somewhere that authorities can't touch. So the faster you provide the information and the more information that you provide to authorities, the better chance you have at recovering those funds.
Yeah. So time is of the essence in the
Absolutely.
reporting. Yes. So I'm gonna look and see. There's one more question that someone commented that they wanted to thank you guys for the great webinar. This is really valuable information that you're sharing with us. And I have so many questions, but I want to give people a chance to enter their questions in the chat. I'm going to ask one while people mull over that. I was wondering, let's say you're a family member who knows a loved one who's entrenched in the middle of a crypto scam, and you're having trouble convincing them that it is one. How would you, what are your recommendations for persuading them?
Yeah, I get this a lot, and it's not necessarily crypto scams of any kind. Sometimes it's just like it could be a romance scam. That's more often what it is, and they're kind of stuck in it. And you know, when especially for young adults, when they're in love, they have those blinders on. They don't see the red flags. What I always tell family members when they come to me and they ask for advice, I always say treat it with a lot of empathy and slowly just highlight the red flags, right? Ask questions and help those individuals kind of ask those questions themselves. Because very often, especially I see this with young adults, if you try to tell them what to do, they're going to do the complete opposite, right? And that happens with older adults too. They don't like to be told. They don't like to be told to do things. And so very often it's just to be, it's good to be just by their side instead of against them, right? So I would not recommend going up to them and confronting them or having like an intervention, because again, very often, sometimes those work, but very often what they do is they build a shell around themselves and insulate themselves even more. Instead, it's better to walk beside them and maybe ask those questions that they should be asking themselves, right? Why is this person asking for money? Why is this person calling you at odd hours or not willing to meet in person? And again, walk beside that family member who needs your help and support. And at the end of the day, you can only do so much, right? Sometimes people have to make their own mistakes, but you could do as much as you can and walk beside them with as much empathy and understanding as possible. And a story I share is there was an individual who, again, I believe it was their grandmother that was kind of in a romance scam. What she did was she was putting herself in her grandma's shoes, and it forced the grandma to ask those questions, saying, hey. So she said she was making up the situation herself, but she was telling her grandmother, hey, I'm in a long distance relationship too, but this person is asking for $50,000 and I think I'll give it to them, right? And so that forced the grandmother to start asking those kind of questions, saying, why are you doing this? You don't even know the person. And so she was turning those questions back to the grandmother and framing it that way so she could better understand it. It works for some people. Try different things. Again, there are a lot of different vulnerable individuals out there, whether they are older adults, whether they're non-English speakers. And again, look at the red flags and help those people see the red flags.
Yeah, thank you. Meeting people where they're at and being empathetic to their situation. For sure, and approaching this. So we have another question that came in from Steph Cutie1. What is or why is cryptocurrency allowed if it's not regulated? Can cryptocurrency be legit even with all the research we do?
So I think given how relatively new cryptocurrency is, sometimes laws haven't caught up with, investment products and certain things out there when it comes to crypto. So at the DFPI, we enforce the laws that are on the books, and federal agencies do the same. And so we try to help consumers and investors as much as possible using the laws that we have. So sometimes different types of crypto assets fall within our jurisdiction. Sometimes they don't. And you're right. It is tricky because there's only so much research someone can do. And so we always just encourage people just to do the best they can when it comes to researching. You won't be able to dig through, corporate documents and take a look behind the curtain for a lot of these crypto assets or investment opportunities related to crypto assets. So that's why you can only do the best that you can do. And if there are certain red flags, if certain crypto asset investment opportunities are not being transparent, if they're not providing information, if you're trying to find out information and you keep running into walls, that might be a red flag if there's not a lot of information out there about something. So do the best that you can do, but there are limits to how much you can research.
Yeah, and I'll add, and I don't know if I mentioned this in our slides, but you should never invest more than what you're willing to lose, right? And that said, when it comes to I won't say safe, but safer investor, right? No investment is 100% safe. But there are those that are insured. Think of it like a certificate deposit. That's insured by the FDIC up to $250,000. if you look at the comparable, all the different types of investments out there, many of the ones, I'm not going to say legitimate, but many of the ones who have some kind of backing, some kind of organization behind it, those are safer, right? And so again, it's a matter of risk. And just like Trevor said, do your research so you can understand what you're risking and what you're comfortable with.
Thank you both so much for answering all of our questions. I think we're getting close to one, so I'm going to wrap things up now. But thank you both, Ku and Trevor, for sharing all of these resources with our community members. This is so important to help protect yourselves and the people you love from these crypto scams that have become really rampant in recent times. And I what I'm going to do is I'm going to share on the screen, like speaking of doing your research, there are a selection of library resources on this LAPL blog post that went up this week. You can access it at bit.ly, bit.ly/LAPL crypto. And that page has a lot of library databases that we subscribe to for our users to access for free that you can use to research different types of crypto assets, or even read opposing viewpoints about crypto, and a selection of books as well to inform yourselves better on the topic. We are also having an April Financial Literacy Month at the library. So you can look out for that on the library YouTube channel. If you're subscribed, you'll see them in the stream. And there'll be workshops on investing and other financial literacy topics there. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and hope you all have a good day. Take care.